Ryan, my man, how are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. We were just talking offline for a second about my jealousy of yours. You like how cool your setup looks.
Do you publish the video too?
No, I have somebody else publish my video, you know?
But no, I
So,
mean like you. But the
oh, well, I
video does
publish it.
come out
Yes,
in
yes.
addition to
The
the
video comes
audio.
out.
Good,
Yes,
good, good.
yes. So
Yeah, I
everyone will
I
get to
I
enjoy it.
cannot take any credit for any of the setup. I did think it would be nice though to create kind of a bit of a studio. So I got some video guys in here who were able to put it all together for me and help me out. So it's nice.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'm we're doing a remodel on my house right now, and one of the ways that
perfect.
my wife sold it to me was that I was going to get my own podcast studio and office in the basement. So I was like, all right, let's
Dude.
go, baby.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Hey,
So
that'll be fun. I
no,
think
it'll be
it'll make you more productive too, dude. Having a place, I think it's important that the place where you go to work, you're excited. You know what I mean? You're
yeah.
excited to get into
Hmm.
the studio, to the room, whatever the space is. That makes a difference. I think it's important.
It makes such a difference, right? Like, even though it's my house, like, and I like this office in this room, but this is a bedroom that we just turned into an office.
Yeah,
So I agree with you. I agree with you. I love teaching because I love going to the space. You're right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a
It makes
good
a
point.
difference. Yeah, it makes a difference.
So the space, not the physical space you're in, but the entrepreneurial space you're in, is this space of leadership. And we were talking offline that you started your podcast in 2015 and like did your own little PhD in leadership while you had a real job, right? Like,
Hmm.
I guess this is a real job too, but quote unquote real job. So,
Sure.
what was that like?
Starting it.
Yeah, any way you want to start with that
Yeah,
question?
I
Like,
mean,
what
so
was it
I
like? Like,
was.
why do it?
I,
Like,
well,
you
so I
know,
went back to school. I played football in college and didn't focus a lot on academics. I got like a 3.0, graduated, and then after I got done playing a little bit after college, you have to get a real job, or at least I didn't plan ahead. So I got a real job and I worked in sales, and I was very lucky. I got a really good company, good people, good job, and they also said they would pay for you to go back to school to get your MBA. So I did that, and it only took me 6 years to get it. So obviously a smart guy. And after I got that though, I thought, well, I should go back to school again because they're
all
going
right,
to
so hold on.
pay.
Maybe I'm missing the joke here. How long does it normally take to get an
Not
MBA?
6 years. It takes like
Okay, got
one
it.
or
All
two.
right. All right. That's what I thought, but I
I
was
was
like,
going,
but
yeah, obviously
all right.
no. So I was taking like one a semester, one class a semester.
Got
So
it.
anyway, got it, and then I was going to go back. But I didn't love that process. I had to hire tutors. It was really hard, and I didn't love all the subjects. So, and at the time, I was also listening to podcasts. So I thought, what if instead of going back to like a formal school and earning some other degree, what if I created my own form of a leadership PhD program where I get to choose all of my own professors and I can ask them whatever I want? And that is what led to the Learning Leader Show. I titled it Learning Leader because my favorite leaders are the ones who are constantly working on themselves to be better so that they can be better for others. And that's how it started. It was all purely for me at the beginning. I still, tried hard to do good work so that others could also potentially get value from it. I was publishing it. That was the way to kind of hold myself accountable. I recorded a bunch of them before I ever launched it, and away we went in 2015. And so now it's been a while, and fortunately, it allowed me to leave corporate America, even though I had no intention of that in 2017 to do the podcast, as well as a lot of other type of consulting and speaking work and writing that goes along with it at that time. So super fortunate, but yeah, it started purely out of just my own desire to go back to school, but to create my own form of a school that I would be really interested to go to every day.
This leadership topic went. What piqued your interest about leadership?
I mean, growing up, I played quarterback and shortstop and pitcher and point guard on the basketball team. And so these are all leadership positions. I was kind of thrust into them by my coaches. In between my freshman and sophomore year, my offensive coordinator and head coach pulled me aside and said, "You're executing and doing your job, but you need to find your voice." And I think that was a pivotal moment for me because I learned the power of what leaders can do, both them and being overt with me, as well as me kind of growing into that space, which I was uncomfortable with. And then I think got a little bit better to where I eventually felt comfortable as the person in charge. And so to me, I saw, one, the power that leaders can have on people, and I wanted to find a way to use that power for good. And I think leadership is so complex and hard. There are simple. It seems simple, but there's a lot of complexities. It's really hard to do it well. I think it's a never-ending journey of learning. And so, to me, that was a topic it was a topic I was and still am most curious to study, and that's why I launched it when I did.
And I think you just said it. Like, I think sometimes we confuse leaders, like, for example, with the being the best on the team
Mm-hmm.
and being the leader,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like often they can be the same, but they're not the same skills, right? Like being the best at the skill versus being the one who can lead the team.
Right.
Different skills. When did you realize that there were different skills?
Well, if you look at like study, I mean, you got a sports background, me too, and I think
sports.
You look at like the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Jordan, Kobe. I don't know if they would be the best coach because maybe the game just came a little bit easier. I mean, even some of the best quarterbacks, they don't go into coaching. So it doesn't, just because you were great at it. In fact, sometimes because you were great at it, it can hinder you. So to me, it's like always.
I think the only one of them that became a good coach was Larry. Larry was a good coach,
and he only did it for
never won a title.
Yeah, a little bit. But I think that you see the ones in the NFL who do well, they're usually like the backup quarterback because they had to really grind and know the playbook and understand how to watch film and be a good teammate, right? Because the starter doesn't like the backup, they'll just get rid of him and get somebody else. So I think I've tried to maintain that mentality as I've progressed, both in my working career and learning from that as playing sports. I was never the most talented guy on the team or the best athlete. I think I was good enough to play and to lead the team. So that kind of grinder, watch film, understand what the defense is trying to do, understand what we need to do, that mentality I think helped me. But yeah, I think it's important to kind of have that mindset as you're approaching whatever your craft may be, of the fundamentals of being excellent there, of being willing to put in the work of whether it's watching film or preparing or whatever that is for that industry. It's really important that even if you happen to be the highest producer, that you never forget that and you never stop doing that. And then you develop skills to communicate that and to inspire that in other people. Again, two different things, really hard, but this mindset of being a learning leader, to me, is the way to do that. A learning leader is somebody who is constantly viewing the world as, I don't have it all figured out. I'm not sure. I'm going to keep reading and learning and meeting people and talking to those so I can learn from them, which then hopefully will make me a better teacher for others too.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing that like when you're first getting back to that topic of like the best athletes. I was talking to a kid whose dad was, the kid is on my kid's basketball team, and we were talking as parents, and he was like, yeah, sometimes you just got to do it, and I was like, and he's like, he's like, we were talking, he's like, the first time I ever like lifted weights, I put 225 pounds on the bar and it went up, and I put 350 on the squat rack and it went up. And I was like, damn, bro. He's like, yeah, I just believed I could do it. And that's why I could do it, because belief. And I was like, you just have the physical attributes that allow for that, right? Like there is no just like my kid right now can't put 350 on the squat rack. He physically can't do it. No kid can, So those type of people don't make the best leaders, because they look at you and they say, do it, because that's how they did it. Right. And unless they want to take a step back from that, right, and then really delve into the how they did it. What were the mechanics? What were the and what was that belief? How did they speak to themselves? And now we can start to be a little better leader. I think the reason that Larry, in that group that you mentioned, was the best coach, because he was the least athletic.
Yeah, it's
like Larry couldn't jump out the gym.
Right. Every once in a while, I know I had one of these. You have a math teacher that is amazingly. They just have a math-oriented, gifted mind. And when they see the problem, They just walk up to the board and they do it. And sometimes, though, those people do not make for a good math teacher. I had one like that where he would walk up to the board. I remember, and to me, it was like Chinese. I'm like, this is not my thing. And he's like, well, it's just boom, 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 boom. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, dude, you made it look easy, but I have no idea how you did it, and you even struggled to explain it. That's not a good teacher. So to me, yes, I'd want him as a member as a player on the math team in this case.
Right.
But not as the tutor or the coach or the leader. I just want him as a solid player on the team. So I think in business and work, it's knowing the difference when you have those. Sometimes you're going to have amazing performers, and it's okay that they remain in these individual contributor roles. In fact, I think companies need to do a better job of creating career growth for those types of individuals. A lot of people, the only reason they interview for those jobs, this happened at where I worked, it's because they saw no other path for promotion. The company had not set up any other way, and for them to feel growth, for them to feel like their friends weren't passing them by as they start raising their hands for these jobs and sometimes get them, yet not be, they were terrible at them. They were an amazing individual contributor. They went to become a manager and they were terrible. And it was because that was just not what they wanted to do. They weren't really that good at it, but they did want to show like they were progressing in their career. So to me, I think companies, and I think they are getting better at this from my experiences, need to really figure out a way to create a track for those who will forever probably be individual contributors, but so that they can still feel growth within their career.
So yeah, they don't have to manage.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have to manage because that's not their strong suit.
And it's not for everybody. It's obviously not for everybody. Yeah. And it don't make people, people shouldn't feel bad about that if that's the case. Now, if you really want it and it's something that you want to do and you're willing to put in the work, then certainly. But if for those who, again, if they feel like they have to because there's no other way to grow in their career, I think that's a poor setup of a business.
I think, talking on this leadership topic, my company uses this software called Traction. And in this software,
Gino Wickman stuff?
Gino Wickman. Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. He's great.
Yeah. Entrepreneurial operating system, right? They're the two main leaders are the visionary and the integrator.
Right.
And they're two totally different styles, right? Like I'm a visionary type. Man, I can't get people to do shit for anything, but I'm just like, why did you not do it? Why did you not do that? And it's probably partially my fault because I changed my mind 10 times of like, yo, we're going to do this and then we're going to do that. And they're all going to be amazing. Right. Yeah. But that is one style and you need this person, right? You greatly need this visionary.
Yeah.
But then you really greatly need this operator, this integrator type person who makes it happen. And for some reason, I think, I often wish that I could be a better operator, and the integrator of our company, he wishes that he could be a better visionary type style. But it's okay, right? Mm-hmm. It's okay. It's just who you are and your personality and where it fits and you make it work. And that's a little bit of what you're talking about.
Yeah, I absolutely. I think it's okay. In fact, I think great leaders have a really high level of self-awareness and understanding where they excel, where they thrive, and where they don't. And to me, that's also a never-ending journey of constantly being willing to hold up the mirror and realizing where you thrive and where you don't, how you feel. I think there's just easy exercises to do when you're journaling is what did I think and how did I feel? What did I think and how did I feel? So that you can look back on these dates and these compelling events and these inflection points in your life and remind yourself of what did you think and how you felt, particularly before making big decisions or big moments in your life. It's good to be able to have that process documented so that you can go back and learn from your past of, oh, looks like I did pretty well. Oh, I really messed that one up, right? So to me, those are things that can help you learn about yourself to understand which one you are, a little bit about whatever it may be. I think that's a big part of effective leadership is this high level of self-awareness.
I don't know why this question just popped in my head, and I don't know what you just said that made it pop in my head. How often have you failed as a leader? Like when you have a group of people and it just doesn't work out,
Yeah,
and it happens. This is part of it.
Quite a bit. I would say a good amount of playing quarterback. I think, the reason I like that position is because you have the greatest influence on the outcome of the game. And so if your left tackle theoretically can miss a block, I could spin away from that defender who's running free and still throw a touchdown. Yet if I throw a ball directly to the defender and he catches it and runs it back for a touchdown, we know how that's going to go. So
sure,
I like
what
that.
you're saying is everyone else on the team, when you throw that interception, could have done their job perfectly.
Yeah.
And you're the one who makes the mistake, and it's for sure going to have an impact.
Yeah, and they can also,
for example,
they can also mess up, and I could overcome their mistakes as well, right? But
both,
if the left tackle blocks perfectly, I still throw an interception, we lose. So that's my point of like, I like that responsibility. So I've certainly thrown my share of interceptions. I've ended games throwing interceptions. Horrible feeling, by the way. In the working world, especially when I was a newer, I mean, that's why I wrote Welcome to Management, because it's kind of filled with mistakes that I made when I became a new manager, because it's hard. I didn't know what I was doing. I only led on the sports field. I never led in the business world, of making decisions without fully thinking it through, of setting up an environment where I did not hire for diversity of thought and just tried to hire 12 people exactly like me, not being clear on who I was hiring, not being clear on promotion decisions I was making, on being afraid. This is a big one, being afraid to tell people bad news. I messed that one up a number of times where it was bad and I just hoped like crazy it would go away by not talking about it. And obviously you know how that goes. Bad news does not get better with age. It gets a lot worse. So I've made all those mistakes.
Well, that one,
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, the bad news doesn't get better with age. Then you do like the spouse thing, where it's like the 6 months ago you did this, and you're like, man, why didn't you just tell me that 6 months ago? And then it's like you've been holding on to that, and it's like, you know, like look, all spouses do it. I'm not talking male, female. Like we all do it. There's something, you know,
for sure.
Oh, that's the worst at work, right? When you're like, dude, if you were mad at me 6 months ago, why didn't you just fucking say it? Right? Give me the bad news in the moment. We'll both just handle it better.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm with you. That's one that I messed up, where you just hope it'll go away, and you should have addressed it. So yeah, I would say regularly. And my first year when I got promoted, I was now leading the team that performed in last place, and we just had a really rocky year of poor decisions. And I eventually got a little bit lucky with some of the hires, and our team turned it around, but it took a while. It was not an overnight success. And so I've felt a lot of the mistakes made and poor decisions, both as an athlete and then certainly in the business world too.
I'm a want to be leader. I want to be a better leader. Let's say that's who I am. Elliot, that's the avatar you're about to speak to. What are some things? Just like, let's start spitballing some things for the listener right now who is like, yo, what can I do?
We hit on some of them when it comes to, I think, first having a willingness and ability to reflect and be real with yourself of where you excel and where you don't. I think next, in order to help with that, is you have to surround yourself with a mentor board of advisors, people who are both willing and able to tell you the truth, to be very candid with you. To let you know what you're doing well, what you're not, what you need to work on. To me, that's everything. Like getting that critical feedback, getting the, hey, double down here, Elliot. Hey, here, you're really weak. We need to work on that. Having people who are willing and able, that is gold that I think you regularly need. I think it's a constant work in progress of working on yourself. I think of identifying people that you admire.
What does that mean? You've said it a couple times, working on yourself. Hold on, before you answer, I want to shut this window. It's driving me crazy. I didn't think it was open.
It's all good.
Sorry about that, everyone. So when you say like that's it's a broad topic, right? Working on yourself, because I'm a big believer in this too. What does that mean to you?
To me, it's a series of regular prompts. I love prompts and questions. I'm a prompt-driven writer and a prompt-driven speaker, meaning I one of the things I do when writing books is hire coaches and editors who supply me with those, and I could respond to them. I think it's always easier to write and to think when answering a question. And so to me, it's what are the prompts, what are the questions that you're asking yourself each day? Am I a bit wiser to going to bed tonight than I was when I woke up, right? The Charlie Munger quote about what have you done today to become better, to become wiser, to work on yourself, right? To me, because excellence to me is about this steady growth, this consistent growth plane that I would put myself on. And if I'm off track, how to get back on track as quickly as possible, because that's how I think we're going to accomplish things is by getting better. So when I say working on myself, that's just a series of prompts that I'm able to answer in the affirmative of, yes, I am a bit wiser. Yes, how? Okay, I read this book, I listened to this podcast, I interviewed this person, I went to lunch with this person who has done this work that I'm curious to learn more about. I was a good listener, right? I asked good follow-up questions. All those things are answers to those prompts of, okay, I feel like I got better today. And I think if you continue to string together days of getting better, then we're into the Bill Walsh of the score takes care of itself type territory of just better, 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 better. The results then seem to follow, even if they weren't your goal. And that's kind of the process I try to take, and that's how I think of regularly working on myself.
Define a good leader.
I think leadership is the art of getting people to want to do what must be done. And that's an art of inspiring people to want to do what must be done. And that comes in many different forms. And when you think about that part of the phrase, which is they want to do what must be done. So think about the want and the must. The must means you actually know what needs to be done. So you have clear vision, a clear view on what it is that needs to be done. And you behave in a way that makes people want to do it. So to me, that means I have to love on those people. I have to care about them. I have to be there for them. I have to be someone who they say, yes, I want to follow that guy. Yes, I want to be a part of that mission with him. So that makes them want to do what must be done. So I have both the ability to care and be there and love on people, and I have the clarity of knowing what we need to get done. And then you combine those things together, and usually then the results will follow. So I think the most effective leaders are really good at that.
You said it earlier, I believe, leadership is a slippery slope, where you said do for good, something to that nature. Because obviously leadership
Power
can
for
be
good.
done, power for good. Yeah.
Power. Power gets a bad word, I think. And my point of that is saying, I think power can be amazing, and I want us leaders to use that power for good. I want us to use it in a way to impact people in a positive way, to leave people, places, and things better than we found them. Like, use the power for good.
How do we? Because it can definitely be used for bad, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the slippery slope, right? There's this territory of leadership.
Yeah, I think
So
having
how do we avoid the bad?
Well, I think having a purpose and a why. So for me, and I'm fortunate to grow up with amazing mentors and examples, like in my own household. And I look at my parents, I look at my grandparents, and they're some of the most selfless people I've ever met. They are the most selfless people I've ever met. And I think that selflessness is a part of why I try to do what I do. Like, this is where I've been lucky to be born into. I feel this responsibility and this desire to, as I accumulate some of the power, to use that for good. I hope to be the model then for the people around me, for the ones who are watching me, especially the ones within my own home, to use that. I like the thought of influencing them in a positive way so that they go on, and that this then creates this ripple effect out into the world of I impact you, you impact your partner, they impact somebody else, and before you know it, it ripples out. Dr. Henry Cloud talked about this on my show, about the leaders have this chance to have massive ripple effects throughout their worlds, and to me, that's how you use power for good. And I think about that, like, what's the ripple effect I'm starting? Because if I am, let's say we're working at a company and you work for me, and I treat you poorly, I am not fair, I don't love on you, I don't care for you, how are you going to go home to your wife, right? I'm guessing there's a good chance you're going to go home complaining, in a bad mood. She may not want to talk to you because you're complaining all the time. Then that causes friction in your relationship, and then that bleeds out to the kids. And then before you know it, the whole house is all jacked up, upside down, right? And it started at your place of work because your boss was not good. So I think about all the ripple effects and also the potential for the positive that can come from that if you're really good from a leadership perspective. So I think leaders have this massive responsibility because it's not just that one person they're leading. It's all of the people within their lives that you have potential impact on. And I think it's the great leaders think that far out. They think about that instead of just saying like, well, we got to hit the number. Let's hit the number. There's a lot more to it than that.
I think we have a massive leadership problem in the world currently, particularly from men. I would say we're leading from this place of ego and bravado and look at me and what I have accomplished. Right? Mm-hmm. We're screaming our accomplishments to the world often. Right? Social media, Instagram, all these things. Mm-hmm. You know. How did we get here and how do we get out of it?
I do think social media plays a role in that. It becomes a lot more of the natural inclination is to kind of take a picture of yourself or look at me. I think it's easy to have envy and jealousy because it's right there. It's right in your pocket. You just pull it up and you can see it immediately. One of the things I write about in the recent book is about this comparison of who we should compare ourselves to. And while I do believe there is some value, as Simon Sinek and Adam Grant talk about the value of rivals, I think for the most part, most of us need to be focused on comparing ourselves to our previous self. And that be the main focus. When you listen to your podcast from 2 years ago, you should be embarrassed. When you read a book that you wrote, 3 years ago, you should be embarrassed, right? Because you've grown, you're wiser, you're in a better place because of.
It's interesting you say that. I hate my book. I hate my book now.
Right. I think a lot of authors have that feeling, right? Probably because you lived in it for a while and you read it and reread it and edit it, and now you're like, God, I'm just sick of this stuff. The same way when you listen to your podcast from years ago. There may be moments like, oh, that's pretty good. But for the most part, it should be embarrassing because you're so much better now. You've improved. So I don't know the exact way to fix a really hard problem, but I think it starts inside of each person. And one of the things I try to do and still fail, especially when it comes to books, is trying really hard to compare myself primarily against my previous self and not against what I see on the highlight reels and social media, because most people's, including mine, social media, it's just all of the really good stuff and not all of the other tough stuff that go along with it for most people.
Social media is a very hard topic in this, right? Because when you're in this industry or what we're trying to do as leaders, you have to put information out there that you have some expertise and that you know what you're doing, right?
Right.
No one's going to follow someone's like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. You know, so you have to say that, but that's only a piece of the pie. Right. Mm-hmm. A piece of the pie is, hey, I know what I'm doing. The other piece of the pie is once you're in and you're in the sphere or the circle of working with us or working with a leader, the humility, the vulnerability, the constant growth that you've been talking about that comes along with it. So take social media kind of a grain of salt a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think the main view I have with that is, my friend Clay Bear talks about this. There's look at me content, and then there's learn from me content. And I just try to put out learn from me content as much as possible. It's not all that way. Some of it probably seems self-promotional and a little look at me, but I hope there's still a learning in there that I can add to that. So I think whatever it is that you're doing, if we're trying to get better, it's what have I learned that I can then share with other people? That's more of the learn from me content that I'm trying to put out there as opposed to just posing in front of an expensive thing there's not really much learning going on there versus, hey, I learned this when I had this interview with Elliot and now I'm sharing it with you. That type of stuff, I think if that's your regular mode of kind of sharing, that could be useful for people as opposed to the look at me stuff.
It's so interesting but the look at me stuff works like what Grant Cardone does. Like, you know,
it works for some people.
Yeah.
It works for some people.
Yeah. It's not. Yeah.
I mean, that type
for
of
me,
stuff
it doesn't.
doesn't motivate me at all. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't follow any of those types of people, but I would say there's definitely he understands how that works and has found his niche. And that, to me, I say, great, like awesome, that's great. If you can do
Right.
that, then you do what you got to do. I think so. I'm not against anybody making a living or building their business. To me, it's just finding the people that I think could be most inspired, that you're excited to help, and then kind of going from there. So to me, it's more about the learn from me stuff.
I think you did a great job right there when I was mentioning an opposite, and you could have just crushed him if you wanted to because you disagree. It's not for you, but you found no reason to. You just said it's not for you, and this is
Yeah.
something that in the leadership space, I think we need more of. Right? Like, look, that dude's doing his thing. He's got his niche, however you like to say that word.
Yeah.
It works for him. He's not harming anybody. Right? It's one thing if
I mean, I
somebody's
hope not.
harming somebody.
Yeah.
Right,
I
but
have
I'm just
no
saying,
idea,
like,
but yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're harming, if he's stealing,
Yeah.
if he's robbing, if right now we
Right.
can be like, okay, that dude's a piece of shit. If that's but that's not going on. He appeals to some people. So go ahead, do your thing. Not for me. Nothing wrong with it. I thought that was a really nice point that
Yeah,
you made
and I
right
think
there.
thanks. I appreciate that. I think especially people as you get to like a certain level of where people are more aware, like you're gonna have he's not trying to be for everybody, and I
Right.
admire that in people. Like they're not trying to
Right.
be for everybody. They realize that not everyone's going to like them, but I think if you're trying to get everybody to like you, then nobody's going to love you. And in that case, I understand that. So I realized and I even wrote this at the very beginning of my recent book, this is not for everyone. And I understand that, and that's completely fine. And I think everybody like approaching it that way is fine. And my thing is, I'm just like the speaking world. It's kind of crazy, but the cool thing is there is plenty of opportunity out there for all of us to win and try to help each other and to refer each other to certain gigs that are better fit for different people. That's been the really cool part about this over the last 5 years that I've loved about it is just how many amazing people I've met that are willing to help each other all do well, because we all know there's plenty out there. And I think that type of mindset is much better than trying to fight or argue or be competitive over that stuff. It's not to me it doesn't work that way.
So it sounds like part of what you're saying here is the scarcity mindset for a leader just doesn't work.
I mean, again, I the one thing I will say as I've interviewed more people is I feel like I view the world much more gray than I used to. I don't think as much in absolutes. I think a much more, Dan Pink and I talked about this, like this reasonableness that you gather as you interview and talk to more people from different areas of the world, from different upbringings and different life experiences. We're all just the sum of those experiences. And so, yeah, I think scarcity is we're verging a little bit towards like the black and white world, which I don't feel like I live in anymore. But yeah, I think of like more, the world is more abundant. There's plenty out there for all of us to do well. And so that's why like I encourage people to do exactly what you're doing, right? To work hard at building a podcast and getting repetitions at having deep conversations, because I think the skill of being a good listener and asking questions and following your curiosity and becoming a better overall communicator, dude, that helps you in everything that you're ever going to do in your life. It helps you in your relationship with your spouse. It helps you in your job. It helps you leading people. It helps you with everything. So why not get continual repetition at this thing? It doesn't hurt anybody. It doesn't hurt me. It doesn't hurt anybody. Do it. And so that's, to me, I think that's more of the abundance versus scarcity, I think, that you're talking about, that I'm definitely a believer in.
For sure. Look, man, the scarcity thing for me, it was a very hard thing.
Sure.
I grew up from Holocaust. My grandparents were Holocaust surviving Jews, and my dad's black, and he grew up during civil rights. So to them, their whole world was scarcity, right? Like there just was never enough for, like, you always had, like, I can remember, and we were well past this at the time. Like we could eat whenever we wanted. Like there was no scarcity. Like we were fine. And my grandma, who used to make my uncle and I crawl out into the farms at night and go pick 10 cucumbers. Go pick 10 for, where literally she bought 10 cucumbers at the grocery store earlier in the day, like, and because
Yeah,
like
man. I
she
mean,
just couldn't get out of that mindset.
but that's an amazing perspective, and I appreciate you sharing that because to me it shows like luck for me.
Right.
I feel an immense amount of luck because those thoughts never have ever entered my mind, and that kind of shows you just how lucky I feel and fortunate that I've never had that mindset. But I remember talking to my grandma, my mom's mom. She lived into her 90s, and like she could not stand the thought of us not like cleaning our plate, not like actually cleaning it, but by finishing the plate of food. Because when she was growing up with the depression and everything going on, it was just, you just did not do that. And we were like, what do you mean? Like, well, it's fine. Like, I'll get a snack. Whatever. If I get hungry. And to her though, there was, she literally got mad if we went to Taco Bell and like didn't finish every little morsel of food. But that's because of that mindset. And I get it. And to me, I feel a great sense of kind of good fortune that's never really been a part of my life.
Dude, I can remember I was 18, 19 years old, maybe 20. I don't know. I threw stale bread out. Stale bread. It was hard. And my grandfather got mad at me.
Yeah.
He's like, you've never been hungry. And I'm like, well, not like you're talking about.
No.
And he kicked me out. He kicked me out of the house.
Wow.
Because and I was like, I get it. Like I get, all right, this is his life, And he, like I said, we were not struggling at this time, but like the bread had to have mold on it to get thrown away. So
wild.
and I'm lucky to never have been hungry, like you said.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I've never been hungry, like for real hungry. Well, I guess I can't say that. So I've lost a lot of weight for fighting, but like that was a choice, right? I could just not do this at any point,
Yeah.
Man, as we start to wrap it here, there's a couple of things that I really like to talk about with everyone. One is this idea. I believe that everyone has something unique about them that they go give to the world, and then that the world gives them back something. There's there's some balance to it. There's some neutrality to it, like their power, their superpower, and you give it, and it makes the world a better place, and you get something back from your giving. What do you think yours is?
I would say, again, this is heavily influenced by my upbringing, the willingness and ability to work each day. Consistency is one of my core values. I witnessed that from my parents, from my brothers, of this, regardless of how you feel, regardless of what you did the night before, you're going to show up. My brother and I had this kind of unspoken rule. We may go out, we may go to a concert, we may be out late, but we're never, ever missing the first lifting time of the day. And sometimes it's, the 5 o'clock lift or whatever. Maybe when we were in college, even at different colleges, no matter what, you can go hard, but you're going to show up in that first group. And I think I've tried to take that mentality into the working world as well, that I understand the value of rest and of days off. I get that. But for the most part, consistently showing up and doing the work and in a way loving the process of the work, the benefits and the rewards and the opportunities seemed to just come our way by having that mentality when it's hard, when you don't feel well, when you're like, I could just sleep today or whatever, but putting that voice away and showing up anyway and doing the work. I think this ability to consistently show up has served our family well.
I love what Jocko says about this, like this idea of rest and work and tired. When he's like, look, when you wake up and you're tired and you don't want to do it, you don't get to take today off. Plan that you're going to take tomorrow off. Tomorrow off becomes the plan now. And as you go through the day, you do today. And most likely when tomorrow comes, you don't need that rest anymore. It was most likely just this moment of weakness, right? You were just being weak-minded, which happens to all of us. Let's not say that doesn't happen.
Sure.
But you have to go through the day as planned.
Yeah.
And now look, if you really need to rest, you rest the next day.
Yeah, I highly identify that as a morning workout guy, because if I didn't do it then, there would be no other time of the day. And
Right.
to me, I just think that's become just ritualized in my life, with getting up and doing the hard thing physically first, a big good sweat of pushing myself, then kind of tees up and sets up the rest of the day. So yeah, I highly identify with that.
Maybe I'm being an asshole here a little bit, but I'm going to ask the question because you're fit and talk to about the working out thing. I find it very hard to follow people as my leaders who do not. Once you hit a certain age, I'm okay with it, but younger people, especially, who don't keep up a physical shape, like they care about uh their health, their well-being. I like how they. I think you show up in the world better when you physically are fit.
I mean, I guess it could sound bad. It shouldn't, because it's about health and wellness. I mean, health and wellness. I
Yeah.
think, but there's no doubt that it does play a role in your mind, even if it's subconsciously, if you show up and somebody is, because in a way, to me, God, we're going into muddy waters
Yeah.
here, dude. I don't know if I should even
Go
say
ahead.
this, but like, in a way, you start questioning discipline, right?
Yeah.
And you, as a business leader of running your show, if it in your business, if I view you and I make a judgment, which I know you shouldn't do this, right? We should approach people with curiosity as opposed to judgment. But subconsciously, do I wonder, is Elliot disciplined enough to be a good leader? Should I follow him? And I think that's natural. And I don't know if that's politically correct or if that's the right thing to say, but I do think that's real. I think that's what happens.
I think the person can show me possibly in other ways that they're not,
definitely,
that they
definitely.
that they are, right? Like I'm not like writing him off as the book, but I'm coming
Correct.
in with some concern, I would say,
Yes.
And I get, and maybe, I'm coming in with a little more like hesitation in this. And I'll be as superficial as this. I love the Peloton bike. I fucking love it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't take the dudes classes. None of them.
Wait,
because
I've
they
never
yell
done
and scream.
Peloton, so tell me why. Why?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because I can't be screamed at and emasculated by somebody whose ass I can kick.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm just being super honest, man. Like like, man, don't fucking talk to me like that. Don't, like, even though it's through a screen like this.
So then
they're not talking to me.
So what classes do you take then?
I take all the girls.
But you could beat them up too. I mean, you're not going to do it, obviously.
But that's not there. That is not there. Look, I own I can't do male therapists.
Oh.
Like, I have a therapist. I can't. Look.
Why is that?
I'm gonna because I'll call and talk to you. You're my homie, let's say, right? And get, like, for some reason, I need this old lady, this much older, mature lady as my therapist. I can't do young. It's just how I work.
Interesting.
And look, what got me hooked on the Peloton, and everyone, like, granted, she has very nice breasts, and that's why I clicked on the class to take the class. But what got me hooked on the Peloton was I was riding, and I was just about to quit. I was literally like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. It's the first class I ever took. And she stops on the bike, and she's not talking to me. She's talking to the whole class, but I could have sworn she was talking just to me. And she looks at me, she goes, what if you fucking had to? And I was like, jeez. Oh my God. I just went nuts. Going. I was like, okay, let's fucking go. Because, like, that goes back to, like, the Holocaust shit for me, right? Like, they had to.
Yeah.
They had to. They had no choice in the want to, or
who was that? Who was that instructor for you?
Jess King is her name, and
dude,
I love her.
She speak at a conference. I saw Jess speak at a conference I was at. Yeah, she's cool.
Yeah, she's great. For some, she's crazy. I don't like anything she wears. Nothing, not my style whatsoever. But because she said that as the leader of my class in that moment, I was like, let's fucking go forever.
That's awesome, dude. I love it.
So awesome. It's just one of those, and I guess like that story is more like, you got to know who motivates you. Kind of like the Grant Cardone thing we're talking about. Grant Cardone has his people, know, and Jess, like, my wife hates Jess King, hates her. And
No, I
loved
think
her when
that's
she was on So You Think You Can Dance. Loved her
well.
on that show.
Even as a leader, you know, you're not necessarily going to be for everyone. I think,
Oh
and,
God,
and, I,
no.
and I'm sure Jess. Like I said, I've seen her speak. I know she doesn't feel that way, and I'm sure the others that we mentioned are the same way. That it's not going to be for everyone, but that's okay. I mean, that's okay. It's like about finding who it is and where that tribe is. I think that's okay, and to have an open mind to maybe though someone who you initially judged. We were talking about kind of appearance that I've definitely had my mind changed by people where I initially was like, and then you get to know them and you talk to them and you know you're like, oh wait, no, I'm gonna get in line here. We may be different when it comes to the gym or what we eat, but like I'm in line here, even though initially it started with a little bit of kind of a head turn.
My wife calls me a fungus, bro.
Why?
She goes, I grow on everybody.
Well, that's
that
awesome. I love it.
and it's that tends to be like my thing. And I've tried, and look, I've worked on this. I've worked on not having to grow on people, and that right. So
yeah, well, I like it.
but
That's
yeah,
great.
yeah, for sure. Last question, man. You've obviously interviewed some great people. You've obviously probably been on some great podcasts as well. And this is a question that I ask every single person. There's probably not going to be like a financial or monetary ROI for you from doing this podcast, right? Like you're probably not going to get any more listeners. Maybe you'll sell, I don't know, 2 books. Who knows, right? But that won't really move your needle in any way. And you're a busy dude, right? You've got things going on. So why take the time out of your day when it's not Joe Rogan or Jocko or Tim Ferriss to come on here and talk to some guy who you've never met before? We're both in a room in our house. We don't have these crazy like $1 million podcast studios. What's the point?
I think leaders should regularly be interviewed. I think it's healthy to have to think on your feet and to verbally share your story, share your point of view, share what you think. Those are useful skills to develop. So because there's a lot of leaders listening who probably are never asked to be on a podcast, I think those people need to manufacture or create opportunities for themselves to have to be forced to think on their feet, not just the board meeting, but even if you have to find others within your network that you're going to interview each other. I think having to answer questions and to be thoughtful and to be concise and to be a combination of entertaining and informative, right, and give them practical application. If you can do all of those things, that helps you become a better leader. So for me, why I said yes was I viewed as an opportunity to get another great repetition at being forced to think on my feet and being forced to explain why I think the way that I do and being forced to tell stories on the fly that maybe I had never told before. And I think if you regularly are getting repetitions at doing that, it's going to make you a better communicator, and becoming a better communicator is a very important skill for me. So to me, I viewed it as another repetition to become a better communicator. And I hope I did that. I hope I added value now to you and to your audience. And now secondarily, what could happen, and I don't know, is you and I build some sort of a relationship where we talk at some point in the future. We keep talking. Maybe somebody listening is impacted in such a positive way that they're compelled to reach out, and then I find out that something, a part of this message, helped them and their spouse or their business. And that's a massive win. Like those emails, that feedback to me, and this may be a bad thing, but to me, seeing that it's positively impacted people is fuel. And that fuel fills that tank up, man, and like gets me excited to do this when it's really hard. When you show up and you're like, God, I feel terrible. I got to get to work, right? So I do value and need some of that fuel to go along with the fact that it is useful for everybody to be interviewed on a regular basis in order to understand what you think, what you believe, and then be able to share that in a compelling way.
And sometimes it shifts you, right? Like the question, like you hear the answer, you're and like, wait a minute, hold on, I don't think this, and it makes you move. You know, it makes you move, it makes you pivot. And I think the ability to pivot, like very quickly when necessary, is really important for leaders.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Agreed.
We can't get stuck on sunk costs, right? Like,
yep.
All right, that money's out the door, it's gone, and not necessarily even money, thoughts, ideas, time, right? Mm-hmm. These are sunk costs. It's gone. You can't get it back. Is it helping me now, or is it not helping me now? Am I thinking skillfully? Am I not thinking skillfully? We've got to be able to shift, pivot, and move.
Yeah, 100%, man. 100%.
Ryan, man, thanks for doing it. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate the thoughtful questions, man.
Yeah, I try not to write them down. I try to, for me, the reason I do it is because it makes me ask skillful questions.
Yeah.
Because everyone's
you
different,
could tell,
right? The only two.
I think the one thing I would say to you is that you could tell, and I like doing it on video too, but you can tell that you're truly listening, and then you have enough confidence to be agile in the moment to ask the good follow-up, as opposed to kind of reading down the list. And I prefer that because it's more of a conversation and less of just Q&A.
Right. We're going to talk.
Yeah.
We're going to hang out for an hour and talk, and
and
maybe we'll be friends afterwards, and maybe it will just be an interview, and that will be it. And they're both okay. And there's nothing wrong with either one of them, but you build real relationships. When you interview somebody with questions, it's very hard to build any real rapport and relationship is how I see it, kind of. Tell everyone if this conversation was very interesting to them, where they can reach out with you, get all your stuff, Instagram, social, all your media, website, that stuff.
Yeah, learningleader.com is really the home base for everything. So my podcast, same name, Learning Leader Show. It's all there. My books are at learningleader.com. My podcast is there. Social is just Ryan Hawk 12, Ryan Hawk 12 if people prefer social. So, but yeah, that's where you can find me.
Was that your football number?
Yep, it was.
Word. You and Randall Cunningham.
That's actually why I chose it, man. That's why I chose the number. I'm from Ohio, but Randall was so when I was growing up, there weren't a ton of running quarterbacks, and I was a running quarterback, and so I loved the way he played the game. Now there's a lot of running quarterbacks, but before there weren't many, so I chose number 12 because of
how old are you?
I felt I identified with that style of play.
How old are you?
40.
40, yeah. So I'm 41. I'll be 42 this year. So we're the same age. So I grew up right outside of Philadelphia, across the bridge in New Jersey. So I was an Eagles fan, and Randall was the man. I was too young for Ron Jaworski, and there we go, Randall Cunningham, baby. Him and Mike Quick. All he does is catch touchdowns.
Yeah, love Randall. He had a rocket arm too. He had a rocket arm.
Rocket. Him and Randy Moss in that season in Minnesota. My lord. Yeah,
it was fun. I love him. He's great.
So, guys, as always, don't go out in the world and try to be Ryan. Ryan has his own unique and special power that he gives to the world. Don't go out in the world and try to be me. I have my own unique and special thing that I give to the world. Go out in the world, everybody, and find your own power.